The final segment of Hooters Sports Radio is now on your radio. It is the Ticket Sports Network. I am Rob Brown. Welcome back, and thank you so very much for joining us this evening. Hope you're enjoying the show thus far, at least half as much as I'm enjoying bringing it to you. I wanted to go and talk one last time about the story of Jason Collins that broke earlier today via Sports Illustrated, because I certainly think that it's an important story. It's a story that I've been talking about bits and pieces throughout the show, but it involves a subject that I've been talking about on this program for a handful of months now, and that's why there's two other names that I think need to be brought into this story, as well as a couple of different folks throughout the day that I've wanted to respond to that I didn't necessarily get the chance to do so earlier, and I'd like to go ahead and do that now. First and foremost, there's two other names that I think need to be brought into this discussion just as much as Jason Collins does, and those two names are Robbie Rogers and Brittany Griner. And the reason those two guys, I think, need to be brought into the forefront of this discussion is very simply because really they built the podium, they built the platform that Jason Collins was allowed to use today to speak on. Robbie Rogers, of course, those of you who don't remember, was an American soccer player for Team USA, for the national squad, who retired at the same time that he came out of the closet as a homosexual athlete. Now, he said that it had no correlation, that there was no reason that he came out and then retired immediately. I find that hard to believe because Robbie Rogers was, I wouldn't say in the prime of his career, but he was certainly far from the end of it, and it was at a time that the American soccer team really lacked for players that were capable of Robbie Rogers' ability, that is to play both midfield and defense well. So I don't think it had anything to do with that. I think very much he was afraid that he would not be accepted long-term as an all-around athlete because of his sexuality. The second person is obviously, as we mentioned, Brittany Griner, who just a couple of weeks ago, upon leaving Oklahoma State as maybe the most talked about women's basketball player since Diana Taurasi at UConn, came out of the closet the night of the WNBA draft and became an openly gay athlete. Now, she might not be an NBA player, she might not be an NFL player or an MLB player, but she absolutely did come out as a member of the highest rated and highest followed women's professional sporting league that one can join in the WNBA. What does that mean long term for her? We're going to find out the ramifications. But I do sincerely think that both Robbie Rogers and Brittany Griner, even if Jason Collins doesn't directly say it, had a real impact with their bravery and courageousness. The second discussion I wanted to have about Jason Collins is this, because I was reading through the tweets of some guys earlier in the day, and the guy who came to mind, and the guy I have a lot of respect for as a broadcaster, he's been doing this game for many, many, many years, and you would better believe I've learned some lessons for him. I've had him on this show many times, is Mr. Tim Brando. Brando is a guy that I think has always done really, really good work, but I think Brando kind of went off a little bit, dare I say inappropriately today, based on the way that he handled his discussion about Collins. He said that Collins, first and foremost, made a choice. Now, I am led to believe, based on his tweet since then, that the choice to, not to come out of the closet, but the choice to come out of the closet at this point in his career is what Tim Brando was talking about. I don't think that Brando meant it's wrong to be gay, even though Brando has gone on a number of times and said, I'm not going to apologize for being a Christian. So he does leave the impression that he thinks it's wrong to be gay. And again, if that's your opinion, that's your opinion. It's your opinion, okay? I don't think Brando was saying it's wrong to be gay, even though I think he does believe that. I think what Brando was ultimately saying is that there's no place in the sporting arena for that discussion right now. And I think that that's totally wrong. We talk about everything else. We talked about Michael Vick getting in trouble with the dog fighting. We talk about guys who get divorces like Jason Kidd and Tony Parker. A couple of good guys in the league have also been thrown under the spectrum, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't understand why if we're talking about divorce, it's okay. I don't understand why if we're talking about crime, it's okay. But if a guy wants to talk openly about the fact that he likes men instead of women, or vice versa, that some reason that discussion doesn't have a place in sports talk. And I think it's totally wrong. I think that Jason Collins is a hero. And that's another thing that Brando said during his show and on Twitter this evening. He said that what Jason Collins did isn't heroic, and he went the path as a lot of other people have followed him. Cops are heroic and firefighters are heroic, and those guys are heroic. Obviously, we all agree that those types of characters in this society we built are absolutely heroic. But if you're a 57-year-old rich white guy who gets flown around the country to talk on camera and put out your opinions, of course Jason Collins isn't a hero to you. Why would he be a hero to you? You have no connection to him as a straight, old, rich white guy. And I'm not saying that speaking out against old rich guys. I really hope one day to be an old rich white guy. If my life goes perfectly, I'm going to grow up to be an old rich white guy. That's my goal, ultimately, is old rich white guy. There's nothing wrong with old rich white guy. I want to be old rich white guy. But the manner in which Brando said he's not a hero, I think was a little bit inappropriate, because I do think Jason Collins is a hero, and I do think that what Jason Collins did and has done is heroic. He might not be a hero to you. He might not be a hero to Tim Brando. He might not be a hero to a regular straight guy listener who, like Mike Wallace of the Dolphins said earlier, doesn't understand gay guys. Nobody's asked you to understand him. They've asked you to accept. There's a lot of people who make decisions that I don't understand. I don't understand why you'd pump drugs into your system. People do it. I'm not going to judge them. Your life, your body, do what you want to do with it. My point is this. Just because you don't understand or agree doesn't mean that he's wrong, or more importantly, any less heroic. He is a hero, and here's why. You might not agree with him, but somewhere right now in this country, there is absolutely an American basketball player who's going from middle school to high school, who's starting to realize things about his sexuality or her sexuality, thinking, I can't come out in sports. Sports is a very homophobic place. Let's not be naive. Let's not joke ourselves. Sports is a very, very homophobic arena. It absolutely is. And I think most athletes, and I think most people involved in athletics would agree with you. It's a very homophobic place. It's a very anti-gay place to be. Until people like Jason Collins speak out. Because now that middle schooler going into high school who's starting to discover things about him or herself, now they have somebody to look at and go, if that guy can do it, I can. There's a high school basketball player somewhere in this country who's gay and has kept it a secret and hasn't told anybody and has not been able to be his or herself, who looks and goes, I can go to the next level and I can be gay, because Jason Collins has proven that to me. Somewhere right now in this country, there's a collegiate basketball player sitting in his locker room, her locker room, after a workout, where their buddies are talking about going and pulling whatever they can pull that night, who's joking and playing along like they're totally in when they have no interest in doing it because they're gay. And that his or her athlete right now is saying to themselves, I can't come out. I'll never be able to make it in the NBA or the WNBA. Brittany Griner, Jason Collins, they have now given those young athletes, somebody to look at and go, I can make it. I can be accepted. I will be accepted, and I can be a professional athlete or anything else anywhere else, because this guy proved that I can do it. Jason Collins might not be a hero to you, Tim Brando, or regular listener X, who's already tweeted me about how I'm, going down this path too far. But the reality is there are young athletes around this country right now who now have somebody to look up to. And at least as far as I'm concerned, that is absolutely the definition of the word hero. Thank you guys for listening. Hope you have a great night. We'll see you next time. For Dollar Bill, I'm Rob Brown. This was Hooters Sports Radio right here on the Ticket Sports Network.